Welcome to the Nutrition Collaborative podcast, where we cut through the noise, bust the myths, and bring you nothing but truth about health, fitness, and everything in between. I'm Alec Moore, dietitian, and each week we'll dive into what really works when it comes to achieving lasting health and fitness. No gimmicks, no BS, just real talk, real success stories, and a holistic approach to living your healthiest life. Whether you're here for practical tips, inspiration from real client journeys, or just to find out what's actually worth your time, this is the podcast for you. Let's break it down, get empowered, and focus on what truly matters for your health. Here we are. Welcome back to another episode of the NC podcast. Today, episode 3, we're going to talk about something that I know a lot of people are quite confused on, and something that you've probably come across. What is the difference between a dietitian, or a registered dietitian nutritionist, and then just a nutritionist and a nutrition coach? Before I dive in, I am not here as a dietitian knocking nutritionists or nutrition coaches. That is not what this podcast is about. This podcast episode is about simply educating on what these key differences are, and to educate you on the different levels of each. What do these terms mean? Are they interchangeable? Are they not? And most importantly, who should you trust and trust the most with your health? Now, I'll say this, not all nutrition quote unquote experts were created equally. You will hear these terms out and about. You'll hear nutrition coach, you'll hear dietitian, you'll hear registered dietitian, you'll hear a registered dietitian nutritionist, you'll hear certified dietitian, certified nutrition specialist, which is actually not a part of the 3 that we're going to talk about today, but probably one we should discuss. So we'll just go ahead and tack it on there. So first, let's just go with dietitian. We're going to talk about what a dietitian is. Now, someone who is a nutritionist or a nutrition coach cannot call themselves a dietitian. And just for future reference here, let me just go ahead and say that a dietitian is the same thing as a registered dietitian. It's just dietitian for short. A registered dietitian nutritionist is also the same thing. So if you hear dietitian, registered dietitian, or registered dietitian nutritionist, all 3 of those are just a dietitian, licensed medical professional. Not all nutritionists and nutrition coaches are dietitians. However, all dietitians are nutritionists and nutrition coaches. A registered dietitian is going to be the highest level nutrition expert there is, with a medical license to practice as a dietitian. The requirements to become a dietitian are much higher than that of a nutritionist and nutrition coach. When I went to school, all I needed to get was a bachelor's degree to be able to sit for the RD credentialing exam, the national board exam. Now, a master's degree at minimum is required to sit for the exam. So now you must have a master's degree to become a dietitian, to even sit for the exam. They won't even let you in the room to take the exam if you don't have a master's degree in dietetics. I believe it's also food and nutrition, not just dietetics. Not only an undergrad, but also a master's degree as of current, and 1,200 hours of unpaid dietetic internship, other dietitians in different categories of the dietitian profession, consisting of long-term care, acute hospital care, sports performance, eating disorders. It's covered in that internship. And 1,200 hours is roughly 40 hours a week for about 9 months of unpaid work in undergrad and after a graduate program. They must also maintain certification with continuing education every 5 years. So they must always be staying on top of, in order to sustain their medical license to practice, they must stay on top of their continuing education. A dietitian is a protected title. So what that means is you can't just call yourself a dietitian on the street. Again, let me reiterate, registered dietitians are the highest level nutrition expert there is, even higher than that of a medical doctor or an MD. The education is very much different when it comes to food, nutrition consulting, dialogue with a patient, principles, strategies, techniques, approaches, protocol, you name it. The nutrition education is entirely different for a dietitian than a medical doctor, and more abundant than a medical doctor. Now that we know what a dietitian is, we could talk about a nutritionist or someone who calls himself a nutritionist. Now, like we said before, a dietitian can be a nutritionist. But a nutritionist cannot be a dietitian without everything I've just described and explained for dietitians and credentialing, qualifications, etc. So nutritionists could be anybody who enjoys the world of food and nutrition. So a little bit different than a dietitian. Someone who might help someone lose a little bit of weight. Someone who gives someone very general advice on food and fitness and nutrition. Not anything deeper than that, or they're not at least educated to do so, unless it's self-education. But as we all know, you can't just become a dietitian off self-education. You can't become a doctor off self-education. You can't become a chiropractor off of self-education. So nutritionist could be your Aunt Sally. Your nutritionist could be my dog, Archie, the other dog, Taz, but he's a little crazy. There's no bachelor's degree required. There's no master's degree required. There's no dietetic internship required, or internship of any sort for that matter. They cannot provide medical nutrition therapy like licensed medical nutrition or dietitian professionals can do. So really, and it's also not a legally protected title either. So the point that I'm trying to make here is you might see nutritionist in a Instagram bio. You might see nutritionist, or hey, my nutritionist this, my nutritionist that. The first question you want to ask them, are they a dietitian? Okay. What are they helping you with? To what extent are they helping you? And are they overseen by a dietitian to give you the best quality care possible? Unless you're just paying them for very, very general advice. Those are the questions you want to ask. Just because a quote unquote nutritionist has maybe some testimonials or reviews and things still does not qualify as a medical license. So quite a few big significant differences between dietitians and just nutritionists. But now we can talk about nutrition coaches as well. And they get a little bit more credit because there is at least some form of education for a nutrition coach, or at least a certified nutrition coach, unless someone could just call themselves a nutrition coach, or because it's another term they can coin for nutritionist to add another spin on it. But most nutrition coaches are passing about a 48-hour course on precision nutrition or ISSA. I believe NASM also has a nutrition coaching thing now, and they're popping up all over because our country is definitely in need of some help. But now nutrition coaches are, again, educated, but it's usually about a 48-hour course. I'm not too familiar with anything more than a 48-hour course for these things. Some of them are a little bit lengthier, maybe upwards of it could take you a week to finish it, but they are very general, very broad, very, very quick. Dietitian is about 5 to 6 years plus your versus 48 hours to a week. So some differences there as well. And they also cannot provide very specific medical nutrition therapy. They cannot do medical nutrition therapy at all. They can, in some states, they can give meal plans, but I would be overly cautious with that because if you're not educated on the systems of the body when it comes to anatomy and physiology, chemistry, biochem, biology, all of the moving parts internally with what you're doing when you're feeding a person specific foods, if they have certain disease states or intolerances or really anything, just managing, sugars, energy, mood, appetite, things like that. Dietitians are very well versed and very, very highly trained to manage very specific cases consisting of those things when it comes to nutrition, health and fitness, and et cetera, disease states, et cetera. These nutrition coaches can be very, very good in some sports settings and providing general nutrition education, getting people in healthier states. Absolutely. But they're still not quite a dietitian. And they certainly don't have a medical license to practice as a dietitian. And if you are putting all of your trust into a nutrition coach, I would do so with caution, just not taking all of their word as, the end all be all. Maybe getting a second opinion with a dietitian, or maybe confirming with a doctor could be good. I still highly recommend dietitians. I might be a little bit biased in that, but you heard the differences, right? Let's talk about an example here about what, the key differences here, what they lead to. All right. This is not dietitians are more educated, don't listen to everybody else. But what does that education lead to? Well, picture a dietitian promoting their specific coaching to an individual based on their needs versus and adapting to their needs over time versus a quote unquote nutritionist promoting a detox tea that ends up having someone have overly, too frequent of diarrhea that leads to nutrient deficiencies. That's the difference. You're not going to have a dietitian promoting a detox tea. I promise you. If you see a detox tea that's being, on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, or wherever, whoever the promoter of it is, click on their profile. It's not going to say dietitian. It's going to say nutritionist, nutrition coach, or fitness influencer. A detox tea is not going to do it. Likely going to lead to electrolyte imbalances, potentially dehydration, bouts of diarrhea. So that's where that lack of education can lead to. It's your health at the end of the day. And to add on to that, misinformation is everywhere, and dietitians are legally bound to not spreading said misinformation. Nutritionists and nutrition coaches, if you are listening to this, please only take clients on if you feel very confident that you won't harm them, that you'll only help them, and that you'll give them all of the tools, resources possible to help them succeed on their journeys and to live their healthiest life. And if you truly don't know a topic, or if you're working with someone and they're paying you and they come across something that you're unfamiliar with, refer out. Do not be afraid to refer out to someone higher educated than you on a specific topic or profession. And it's only going to be good for the client and good for you, because that's going to build even more rapport with that client for you, because they're going to trust you even more. You said, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this specific thing. Let me reach out for some help that I know could be helpful or actually work. They're going to trust you so much more. Now, if you have a medical diagnosis and you're seeing a nutritionist for it, or a nutrition coach for it, specifically for that diagnosis, I would rethink that, be a little bit skeptical, ask some questions, and reach out to probably a dietitian. These medical conditions are complex, diverse, and intended for trained medical professionals such as dietitians to handle and manage, not just a health and fitness coach. Don't be afraid to be your own advocate. Try not to fall for flashy marketing from nutritionists with said detox tea. And don't base someone's credibility off of fake testimonials that they have on their site, or the words, I've helped 10,000 plus transformations in their Instagram bio. Those are not equivalent to a medical license. A follower count is not equivalent to a medical license. Just because someone has 834,000 followers does not mean that they are an expert on the topic that they're blasting about. Just because something is branded, just because something has beautiful little transitions or colors, and it's really enticing, and it seems like they're really telling the truth about something, and they send you that link. Just buy my electrolyte supplement that I earn commission on, because you need it no matter your health condition. What if that thing that they make commission on is extremely interactive with one of your medications and they don't know it? Well, that's going to be a problem. Not for them. They're going to make the dollar. So advocate for yourself and trust the right professionals. It's all about what you need, what level you need it. I hope this episode helps you sift through the differences between a dietitian, nutritionist, and nutrition coach. The last one I wanted to talk about that I forgot about was the Certified Nutritionist Specialist, CNS. That actually does require a bachelor's or a master's, and I would put them just under dietitians on the expert level of the nutrition professions. So again, to not only recap, but to the nutritionists and nutrition coaches listening, because I know there's probably a lot. This episode is not intended to antagonize the nutritionist, nutrition coach side of the nutrition profession, but it is here to spread awareness, help society advocate for themselves, and essentially let it be known what those differences are between all of those, or between all of those titles. Spread great information, not misinformation. And thanks for tuning into today's. If you want to connect on social media, my Instagram is Alec the Dietitian. The business Instagram is nutrition_collaborative. TikTok, nutrition_collaborative. And you can reach me at alec@mynutritioncollaborative.com. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you next week.